Jack Thompson. I live at 31510 Bruceville Road in Trapp. I want to thank the council for the opportunity today to present our thoughts on the village or the comprehensive plan. My specific focus is from the perspective of one of the villages, which is Bruceville. The two main points I want to get across to you is that, one, our village supports the comments and recommendations that was submitted by Mr. Harper with the Village Center Board. And second, although this has never come up before, I would like you to think about considering Windy Hill as being part of the Bruceville Village. Our villages have been linked forever. With that said, I don't know, I handed out some handouts. Did you get a copy?
You got to speak it to the microphone.
Did you you got the handouts? Okay. If you go to Exhibit A, that is.
Let's see if we can fix this.
That works better. Yeah. Okay. If you go to Exhibit A, that's a goose eye view of the village. And the inset is the downtown. It is a crossroads village. And one main road heads down to the landing at Windy Hill and that village. Everything, all that traffic comes right through that neighborhood. The other thing that I have attached in my handout is the actual village master plan for Bruceville. And this is a template that was provided to the villages by the planning department. And so this is from that original template. And just to talk a little bit about Bruceville, it is the heart of Banbury Neck. As you know, we have many peninsulas, and these are necks, and water gets high enough, they become islands. So that can be an issue. Of a particular interest for this process, I found an article from the Star Democrat from 1927 talking about Bruceville and Windy Hill. And what struck me was this comment below, where it says, Banbury asks no favors of the other sections. In its former days, it was looked upon as being less progressive, less cultured than some of the neighboring sections of the county. It only takes the presence of good roads and a good means of transportation to link it with Talbot's best. So even back then, they were questioning having to do infrastructure in what I call the Talbot Outback. Okay. Back then, it was probably putting asphalt on the dirt road. Okay. Since colonial times, this area has been enjoyed by American Indians, farmers, trappers, hunters, and watermen alike. And I call it the Talbot. If you see the Exhibit B, you can see this one village is over on the far side, the other side of 50, which is not going to get water treatment. We know that. We don't expect it. But we don't want to be forgotten. Obviously, its heyday was when there were steamboats and all the produce and stuff that went to Baltimore or wherever. We have some historic buildings still, including our old church, which goes back to the mid-late 1800s. And then as part of the planning process, we put in how this area has changed over the last 10 to 20 years, because we view the comprehensive plan as a 10-year plan, basically. The main thing is the small little corner stores are gone. And we now go to the Bolero at 50 and Barber Road. And that's where our closest convenience and food and ATMs are and stuff like that.
Mr. Thompson, you got grass, we're going to wrap.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, we'd like you to consider the village plans, and we'd like to continue to be part of the process.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm Carol Boyles. I live in Sherwood, 7236 Cabin Cove Road, and I'm here to support Bill Nielsen's concerns about our peninsula. The Bay 100 Peninsula is a relatively fragile peninsula surrounded by tidal streams, and it's distressing to see the recommendations of growth that are being made without seeming to address any of our congestion and safety concerns. Now, generally, we do have pretty good traffic flow up and down Route 33, but it is a two-lane road, and we face runners, walkers, cyclers, automobiles, trucks, equipment, school buses, and all kinds of transportation, utility equipment, tree trimming, and so on. and we've all experienced delays. Even recently, we've had 2 major accidents with air rescue transports, 2 fatalities, and long delays with 2 total shutdowns. We've all waited in these situations at different times. So concerning our congestion, I guess the most important point of congestion is St. Michael's, a lovely town, but with a very narrow thoroughfare and slow traffic through. And we're concerned that things may become even more congested there with the redevelopment plans. And we're anxious to see how that's handled because, once again, no mention has been made of any kind of traffic concerns. But we do have those concerns. Our current population density may have already resulted in some infrastructure issues, even without adding designated growth village areas and then calling for the possible adoption of TDRs or transfers of development rights. Those are concerning because they don't define areas of growth very specifically. And I will quote here, the county should discuss the possibility for an interjurisdictional TDR or a density exchange to encourage greater development density in appropriate villages or other non-municipal settings. We're left to wonder where in the Bay 100 that might be. What is an appropriate non-municipal setting for more growth for us? And it's left completely in the air. We know without specific guidelines and designations, those decisions will be left to 3 people, council majority. So we are still wondering. You're focusing upon affordable workplace housing, encouraging development, providing sewer lines with more connectivity, and suggesting density changes in villages. And growth can be good, but we're still wondering how many lots are currently available for development, why the council doesn't seem to be working more closely with the Planning Commission and citizens groups as they have in the past, and where are the analyses and impact studies we would expect to see in any long-range planning. So I'm certainly not the only one whose family and friends have commented upon our situation living in the Bay 100 with a preponderance of critical area and just one road in and out. Without adequate planning, we can only expect to have more transportation and safety concerns. Finally, I'm not alone in believing that the citizens of Talbot County and our governing body may find data that informs prudent decisions both useful and reassuring, making it more likely that our comprehensive plan will fulfill its mission. That is to preserve the quality of life while protecting our health, safety, and well-being of its citizens. Our quality of life also, it makes us prosperous and affects our economy, and it's very important to us. Mr. Harper, as mentioned by...
Before you're at the red, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up. You're at the red now.
Mr. Harper, it was mentioned, did submit a list of considerations for study that I hope you consider. Thank you for listening.
Good evening. My name is Steve Bender. I live at 4936 Fairbank Road, Tillman. I agree with the concerns of the Bay 100 area residents as discussed by Mrs. Boyle, as well as those Mr. Nielsen presented. I want to underscore the increasing need to stem the decade-long population decline of the 25 to 44 age group of the county. Young people want to find a living wage, and professionals want to raise and educate their children in quality communities. To my mind, the comprehensive plan must address economic development, education, and suitable housing in the detail necessary to understand what is to be done and where. If we are intent on strengthening and diversifying our economic base using our considerable human, natural, and economic infrastructure resources, we must invest in growth and change to meet evolving economic and social infrastructure demands. We must not pride ourselves on situations such as underperforming public education system built on the maintenance effort, court battles to protect polluting, and bulldoze and build proposals to the water's edge that profit a few and leave the many with ongoing public sector costs and an unwanted living environment. The public and private sector alike needs a formidable strategic effort to place investments in new products and services utilizing the resources we have in hand and attract those who are looking for a community as put forth in the vision statement of the comprehensive plan. The county's low wages and low investment in public school pupils, the public revenue drought, and America's #1 romantic getaway spot are not competing well with other counties and states. Our present situation demands a comprehensive plan with forward-looking strategies based on real data, challenging calls for private and public participation, and dogged determination. Opening doors to more building for profit's sake does not make sense when we have a high inventory of high-end residential and commercial. We need targeted physical growth and shifting subsidies from what is polluting to what sustains jobs creation and livable wages. We need to focus the future with all parties at the table. As I have listened to and read the proposed edits of the comprehensive plan, there appears to be insufficient evidence that we are presenting a compelling case for economic development, education, and appropriate housing. All of these elements must be robust if we are to attract new investment and employment. I urge the council to guide and not postpone or gloss over the required elaboration of these elements. Thank you very much.
My name is William J. Kennedy. I live in the Sherwood area on Cabin Cove Road, 7317 to be exact. My wife Arlene and I settled in Talbot County because of its low density and rural setting where we can enjoy the wonderful characteristics of this place. Previously, we lived and worked in Prince George's and Howard counties. As someone with 30 years of management at a major wastewater utility, I can tell you this draft plan needs more discussion and additional clarification on how sewer facilities will impact the Bay Hunter area. I come before you today to do 4 things. First, to thank you for this opportunity to publicly comment on the draft 2015 Comprehensive Plan. Second, to endorse the preceding statements by Messrs. Nielsen, Bender, and Ms. Voiles. Third, to generally express my disappointment in this council's efforts to update the county comprehensive plan. And fourth, to specifically speak to the additions that this council is proposing for the plan covering new sewers. The plan calls for expanded sewer service for areas of failing or polluted septic systems in the Bay Hunter area. This is on page 6-9, line 8. And further states that the county will work to allow moderate planned growth and development on existing lots of record. No definitions of failing or polluted septic systems or moderate planned growth appear in the plan. The draft also states that the county will work to identify and prioritize for connections to sewer systems areas of inadequate and substandard septic systems. Page 6-13, line 10. Again, there is no definition for these terms, inadequate or substandard septic systems. The draft plan further contains language that the county should continue to seek means of providing sewer service to villages where possible to improve environmental quality. This is page 9-10, line 13. What is the county's definition of environmental quality? I did not find it. By adding new language such as the above, you've opened a Pandora's box, which will allow a host of differing interpretations for future councils. My point is not to wordsmith this document, but to show that very specific new language, new terms, are being proposed to the 2015 Comprehensive Plan without adequate definitions or explanations or referencing other studies or papers for clarification. The residents of Talbot County deserve as much. In addition, the draft plan fails to at least mention the impacts both environmentally and economically of installing an additional low-pressure sewer system, that's LPS, several wastewater pumping stations, upgraded or additional wastewater treatment facilities in the Bay Hunter area. There should be some statement of the approximate capital costs for these facilities, even if they're paid for in part by third-party grants, as well as the maintenance and operation costs over the next 20 years. These costs most assuredly will impact future county budgets. The plan should also mention the impacts of individual residents who will have to spend thousands of dollars to install new plumbing, including grinder pumps and sump pits, to connect to the low-pressure system. While the idea of installing additional sewer facilities in the Bay Hunter area to eliminate nitrogen discharges from septic systems is noble, however, the plan needs to make it clear that only 4% of the total maximum daily load for nitrogen will be removed. Again, thank you for this opportunity.
My name is Cathal Carroll. I live at 9790 Martingham Circle in St. Michael's. I've lived in Talbot County for about 20 years now. My spouse and I are registered voters in this county. I have grave concerns about the proposed plan promoting substantial new development in and around the 12 western villages and over the housing developments that are on 33 and 329. The proposed plan could forever change the character of our neighborhood, and I would not want our quality of life changed simply for those who are looking for some monetary or financial gain. I see that as a trend and have for the last 2 decades. Routes 33 and 329 are already overburdened, and increased density per acre has the potential to cripple road, sewer, and emergency response systems that are already overburdened in my view. I realize that growth plans are necessary, valuable, and important for all of us, but to squander the legacy of our rural environment for our children and our grandchildren by exploding dwelling counts throughout the villages and neighborhoods makes absolutely no sense to me. I sincerely hope you will rethink this plan and make substantial changes that will benefit all of us who live here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you.
Roland Brown, Boone Creek Road, Oxford, Maryland. Ostensibly, the proposed changes to the comprehensive plan are being done to provide sewer service to failing systems and perhaps enable landowners to realize the full value of their property. These goals are not without merit, but if enacted hastily and without careful planning would potentially lead to the detriment of other landowners and citizens of Talbot County. These changes, along with changes to increase in the housing density and overall village size, directly contradict the existing comprehensive plan that states the primary goal of the Talbot County Comprehensive Plan is to preserve the quality of life and rural character while protecting the health, safety, and well-being of its citizens. I heard comments at the roundtable discussion last week that suggested development in the county has been curtailed by environmental and economic circumstance so that we don't need to be concerned about overbuilding. This could not be more incorrect. Many people would like to build here, make Talbot County their homes, because of its open spaces, uncluttered roads, and pleasant landscape. Lifting constraints will encourage and invite development, which will ultimately contradict the very reason people want to come here in the first place, which is to get away from overdevelopment, traffic, and overcrowding. The groundwork that you lay today with the comprehensive plan will govern the future well-being of the county. And there's no reset button. To my knowledge, there has been no study done of the potential impact that these changes will have on the character of the landscape, nor the safety and service to the citizens. There currently exists hundreds of lots in these areas that do not meet current sewage waste removal regulation. Once public service is extended, no one knows the extent of the potential housing construction and increase in population. No one knows the effect of road traffic or the increased need for police, fire, and rescue services. The comprehensive plan must include what the effect of these changes will be on our county and how to respond to them. Before changes are made to our comprehensive plan, changes that potentially will affect our county forever, I urge the council not only to obtain a thorough study of the effect of these proposed changes, but also to seek the input of the many citizens of this county once the full ramifications of the study have been made public. Please don't acquiesce to perceived quick fixes and political expedience. Just as all change isn't bad, change does not always equal improvement either. You have a duty, you have a responsibility to preserve and protect the quality of life of the citizens of Talbot County and their children. Thank you.
My name is Jane Bowman. I'm going to read my comments because I'm old and forgetful and I don't want to miss anything. I'd like to formally propose that Chapter 1 of the Comprehensive Plan be amended to include a section to be drafted by Barton Sokolich that fully explains the unique geographic element in Talbot County and makes it difficult from typical counties, creating unique planning issues. This added section would discuss that we have a narrow, very long, low-lying peninsula. The distance from the bypass to Black Walnut Point being 25 miles. This was alluded to by a previous speaker. This unique part of the county is served by only one significant road in and out, and it has over 12 points that the county emergency services has designated as flood points. The road system on the peninsula is very constricted with several inflexible pinch points and old roadways, and especially the intersection of Route 322 and the St. Michael's Road. That is already a terrible intersection. So I specifically propose that a schematic plan be included that shows Talbot County as a big lump and the St. Michael's Road as a 25-mile piece, addition really. So if that would be included in the comprehensive plan, then no future council would ever be able to overlook that basic fact. Thank you very much.
My name is Lisa Marie Gezzi. I live at 7218 Maxmore Creek Drive off of Travelers Rest Road. Referring to an earlier speaker, Will Cook, I have lived here, I've retired here, and at my age, this area has been life-changing for me and have made a dramatic change in the way I see this world because of living here. My point is focused on the basis of any comprehensive transportation plan is a planning study is traffic data. The lack of current data for our existing comprehensive plan as drafted, particularly as it relates to, or as Will has so eloquently helped us to imagine Pinocchio's nose. I love that. It is critical that we have such a transportation study. Referring back to the 2005 Comprehensive Plan, effective April 16th, 2005, there were two critical and many other references to something called the county's thoroughfare plan. I'd like to quote two parts of that. The thoroughfare plan being developed as a component of the comprehensive plan will establish a long-range vision to meet the needs of the county, while at the same time it lays out more immediate policies and implementation measures to achieve coordinated transportation planning and service delivery. Chapter 4, page 2 of chapter 4. The second quote I'd like to make is the primary objective of the county's thoroughfare plan is to establish goals, policies, and strategies to plan and manage the county's current and new road facilities. You can read on going back to that. This plan was adopted in 2006, and yet it has not been updated. The most current information in that 2006 plan projected 2013 and upwards, but no data has been presented that I know of. No traffic data is available in the current comprehensive plan that supports any of the information that's been developed for the current draft plan. Furthermore, much of this language referring to the county's thoroughfare plan in 2005 has been eliminated from the current comprehensive plan draft. A couple of important points to note about the thoroughfare plan. In it, it's recommended that the thoroughfare plan be updated prior to future revisions of the comprehensive plan. Another quote from the Thoroughfare Plan. The majority of the county-maintained roadways which predate the current county roadway design standard are not to current nationally recognized roadway design standards. Roadway widths, cross slopes, clear zones, drop-offs, obstruction protections are consistently below minimum requirements. A previous speaker also noted about the safety of the roads, not only for cars, but for bicyclists, and we have had deaths just even in the last year. Also, based on the deficiencies found with the operations analysis, the following corridors are in need of major improvement. Maryland 33 from Station Road to Maryland 322 and Maryland 33 to Maryland 579. Again, this has not been updated with any data since, from what I can tell, 2004. That's 11 years ago. It's self-evident that the Thoroughfare Plan must be updated before the County Council makes any changes to the existing 2005 Comprehensive Plan that would affect the density within Pinocchio's nose.
We'll have to ask you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to say something.
I'm Marshall Weingarten. I live at 8192 Gatherley Circle in Easton Village. Okay, I'm going to read from a letter from the County Council of Talbot County dated May 29, 2012. Current afternoon conditions, 2012, at times for certain movements already at a level of service deficit regarding the intersection of 33 and 322. This condition is with intersection improvements that have been completed after the county transportation planning study. All this note is before BJ's, Harris Teeter, or Dick's. The study anticipated that Waterside Village development, as proposed, would not significantly affect the level of service. With the current observed conditions at the intersection, it appears that traffic at the intersection has already exceeded the study's projections. Additional development at Waterside Village may cause additional periods of failing intersection movements. This intersection is the pinch point for evacuating the Bay 100 region during emergencies, and is the gateway to many of the county's major tourist destinations. Existing residential development in the immediate vicinity, Easton Village, has not fully developed. Once fully developed, additional vehicles will contribute to the congestion of this intersection. This is signed by Corey Pack. So this is years ago. They were already talking about this being a big problem. And you're adding more development. Nottingham has already announced they're going to be increasing the number of their dwellings. They're improving their golf course to international standards. And there are other developments going up. Easton Village has another 100 lots that they still haven't sold. And the roadway is really dangerous. In case of an emergency, there's only one way out. It's one lane. They can't use the second lane because emergency vehicles might be going out in the other direction. You can't use the shoulder because when you get to the bridge is only 2 lanes rather. And when you get to this intersection of 33 and 322, it's listed in the federal papers as a flood zone. What are people going to do when they get there? Get out of their cars and walk? There's no place to go once you get there. You already have 2,000 people at least down that road. They won't be able to get out if it's a hurricane. Yeah. That's my opposition to more housing, higher density.
My name is Ralph Cruikshank. I live at 8620 Bosman Nevick Road in St. Michael's. When I looked through the plan and looked at the fact that we may be getting more people living here in the county, I thought back to the year 2003. 2003 was the time of the great surge that we had. If you went outside your house and went up to Route 33 after the surge was over and things were being cleaned up, you would have seen emergency vehicles going in both directions. You would have seen military vehicles running up and down the road. If you went all the way down to Tillman Island, you would have seen houses that were flooded. You would have seen water all over the place. You would have seen boats up on Route 50 if you came across the Bay Bridge. All this happened, and I got to thinking, if we have a real hurricane and not a surge, how the heck am I gonna get out of my house and get to dry land someplace? So I went to the Talbot County Department of Emergency Services and looked at the evacuation rules that they had. And here's what it says. If it would become necessary to evacuate areas prone to storm surge, which is our entire peninsula, it would be coordinated by our law enforcement and highway roads agencies through the Talbot County Emergency Operations Center. So at least somebody's in charge. Traffic control points would be established and notice would be given initially as a recommendation and if necessary as an order. I'm not sure how they're going to get that information to us when the power lines come down and there's no power and no phone service, but I assume they're going to do that. In the Bay 100 area, we would be recommending those in the most distant areas to leave initially, with others closer to Easton to follow. So if you're in Royal Oak, you gotta wait for everybody in Tillman to pass. And then you can go. And once again, I'm not sure how that's gonna work. Maybe we'll all take numbers. In this event, although a shelter would be opened in Easton, which is really good, they're gonna open one in Easton, we would encourage persons to stay with family or friends. If you don't have friends or relatives, family that likes you, I guess you're gonna have to keep driving until you can find it. Also, from the County Development of Emergency Services, they have a little map that shows the Eastern Shore, our peninsula, and the very first line says that our Pinocchio knows where we live is the most flood-prone part of Talbot County. And now we're going to put more housing in, we're going to have more people, we have one way out, and I think that needs to be looked at before we decide that we're going to put 4 units on a single acre. Thank you very much.
My name's Dan Watson. I live in the Averly community right off of Route 33. I would point out to the council that the focus of an awful lot of the discussion and the reason people are here tonight is because of that peninsula. And it's not that these people are so selfish, it's that the county council focused in the comprehensive plan, in my opinion, most of the growth efforts and most of the discussion out in the western villages. So that is what brought these people in talking about the peninsula. I would like to offer not a complaint, but a solution. I propose that a new policy 2.3 be inserted into Chapter 2 of the comprehensive plan with other policies renumbered appropriately. This policy would state as follows, 2.3. Because of land planning issues affecting the peninsula, extending from the intersection of 333 and 332 to its end on Tillman Island, such as unknown inventory of existing lots, road deficiencies, unique hazard risks, the county shall, 1, create a peninsula overlay district, defined as the entirety of the peninsula extending from the intersection of 33 and 332 out to Black Walnut Point. 2, shall compile an inventory of existing buildable lots on the peninsula, assuming sewer extensions to all western villages and legal subdivisions under existing regulations, including current interim zoning. 3, shall update and revise the thoroughfare plan for the peninsula based on current data, peak demand periods, and establish current road capacities. The county shall identify possible future improvements over the comp plan period and what capacity increases would result. 4, shall update and review the hazard mitigation plan for the peninsula in the context of road capacities. And finally, shall create appropriate regulations that provide that notwithstanding other changes affecting parcels in this district, such as installation of sewer lines, any changes to zoning that increases density on any parcel over that permitted by existing regulation, including current interim zoning, shall be inapplicable in this district until such time as the lot inventory, the thoroughfare plan, and the hazard mitigation plan for the district are complete, and the county council on advice of the Planning Commission and Planning Officer, and after public engagement and public hearings, determines that such increases in density, if any, are in the public interest in the aggregate and individually.
I'm Jack Fisher. I live in Sherwood, Langdon Farm Road. Of the many red line changes in the comprehensive plan introduced by the council, the most profound in a land use sense are those that would encourage incentive zoning and the transfer of development rights. Those insertions would permit housing densities in western villages well in excess of the already dense current zoning of 4 dwellings to the acre, and the subsequent construction of apartment buildings. The sum of those proposed changes, if enacted, would bring significant change to rural villages, growth to the western part of the county, and further congestion to one of the most congested roads in the county. The most important responsibility of county planners such as myself and governors such as each of you is to protect the health and safety of citizens. In that light, it is surprising and discomforting to read that the council would consider encouraging growth along an already congested evacuation route, itself fed by side roads often so narrow and dangerous that drivers slow when meeting each other. Accidents on any of these one-way in, one-way out peninsula road back up traffic for miles and hours. For these reasons, the safety concerns of residents of western parts of the county are real and justified today, without further growth and traffic. Citizens travel Route 33 frequently bumper to bumper, proceeding at speeds well below the speed limit, even in good weather. But Hurricane Isabel wasn't even a hurricane when it reached Talbot County, and it severed the road, the sole evacuation route of people in the Bay 100. Clay stamp is wonderful, but I believe we would be derelict to plan growth along an already congested, one-way out evacuation route, presuming that somehow Clay will figure it out. He's not a magician. Our planning decisions should facilitate his important mission, not confound it. The bottom line is that our remote and vulnerable western villages are the last place in the county that we should plan to increase population density and encourage growth. One more thought. I do not recall a single expression of public support for dramatic change in village density or growth in the western part of the county during the long review of this plan. There was none from the 40 citizens who served on work groups reviewing the 2005 plan, none from citizens in testimony before the Planning Commission, none during deliberations of the Planning Commission itself, and none in the draft plan submitted to the council by the Commission. Therefore, the red line changes proposing to radically alter the density of western villages stem not from citizens, but are whole cloth and alone the product of members of this council. That reversal of roles from bottom up to top down government is unprecedented in the development of comprehensive plans and suggests a process inconsistent with the tenets of representative government. I urge the council to avoid setting an inappropriate and harmful precedent by removing the self-initiated red line changes in the plan that suggest an agenda to substantially increase housing density in western villages and growth in the western part of the county. In that way, the plan would be returned to consistency with the principles of proper planning and with the desires of the majority of citizens, making it once again the citizens' plan, as it always has been and as it is meant to be. Thank you.
My name is Bonnie Summers. I live at 7383 Back Street, Newcomb. I actually live in a village. I don't know how many of you do. I have attended most of the meetings and workshops on the comprehensive plan, both the Planning Commission and the County Council. I know that you have been lobbied heavily by probably this group in here. Now, you folks are not going to like what I have to say, but please hold the tomatoes and the rotten eggs. I like this blouse. This is my opinion on what is following. I think most of this village stuff has been about stopping development and restricting land uses. Now, you guys know how the people who live in the villages feel about their village zoning. Some of you have even promised that you would not change their zoning unless they requested it. And somehow that got changed. But this isn't really about protecting villages. This is really about the village of Royal Oak, and in particularly the one area in there called Darby Farm. It's okay to take our farmland and develop it with all kinds of houses, but it's not right to take an area that is in a village that is zoned for sewer, and it's surrounded by housing on all sides, on Royal Acres, on Thornton Road, and the other part of the village. If you think I'm off base on this, would you please look at the guest comment in Sunday Star Democrat? And when you do, I'd like to mention something else. When you talk about the villages and the people who say they're in the villages, in Royal Oak, Deep Neck, Goose Neck, Fairy Neck, even the village of Bellevue all have Royal Oak addresses. So when you talk to these people, find out if they live in the village or they're just outside the village wanting to express their opinion of how they want that village to be. As somebody who lives in a village, I get a little upset because everybody around you wants to tell you how you should be. Now I'd like to switch a little bit and go to the round table that you had. And that conversation again was dominated by this group. But I'd say hats off to Mr. Pack, who had a very good effort in keeping the conversation on track and keeping us moving along. Now, for those of you who are concerned about Route 33, that has been one way in and one way out since I was a child, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But if you look around, looking at this room, you're all old, like I am. You need, the other gentleman, we need to have things in this county for young people. One quick in closing.
Ma'am.
There were three facts that came up in that roundtable that will affect our community and how we live and operate. One was the lady from St. Michael's who said half or more of those houses are second homes. Do you know what that does to a community when you have second homes in a community? The second was Joe Seacrest, said that our fire companies cannot get members. What are we going to do? We're going to have to look at having a professional paid fire company. And what's that going to do to our taxes? And the third thing was the mention by the Village Center Board Chairman talking about, and he didn't mean it this way, but he said you have to think about, when you're talking about development, how it's going to affect things like our schools. Well, guess what? St. Michael's is on the verge of losing their high school because they don't have enough people. Now, what does that do to a community? They have already expanded the area up into areas behind the airport to get more kids down in that school. I like what the gentleman said. We need to concentrate. We don't need any more old people like us. I don't want to live in a community, a retirement community. I want a thriving, vibrant community. And that's where their emphasis should be. But it seems to me...
I'm going to have to...
Oh, I'm ready. I've got more to say. Thank you very much.
Good evening, council members. Tom Alsbach. I've been a full-time resident of Talbot County for 40 years, and for the last 15 years I've served as president of Talbot Preservation Alliance. And the last 15 have been a lot busier than the first 25. I want to talk about process tonight. When this, I don't want to use the word ordeal, but this prolonged consideration of the comprehensive plan began way back in early spring. Ms. Williams, speaking for the five of you, announced that we're here to rewrite this comprehensive plan as we see fit. That was a direct quotation. And that's exactly what's happened. For the last 30-some hours, over 14, 15 sessions, all of you have talked to each other. No one out here had anything to say. We have 2 hours tonight. I think that's disproportionate and counter to the way this plan should have evolved. It's a shame you couldn't have had a half-hour public session at the end of each of your so-called workshops where you could have gotten some of the feedback you're hearing tonight instead of having it all compressed to the end of the process. Well, the process shouldn't be over. And in fact, it's not your prerogative to rewrite the comprehensive plan. If you look at the Maryland Code, there's a provision that relates to how a comprehensive plan is revised and amended, which is what we're doing right now. And then the land use article, section 1-416, it says very clearly that every 10 years, each planning commission shall review the comprehensive plan and, if necessary, revise or amend the comprehensive plan. The planning commission may prepare comprehensive plans for one or more geographic areas. It doesn't say anything about this council or any county council in a charter county, because this provision refers to charter counties, has the right to rewrite the comprehensive plan. There's another provision that talks about a county council's ability to modify a plan, but that's in the section that refers to code counties, which we are not. So this is the law that pertains to this council. So what do? My suggestion to you is that all that red line stuff that someone said should be deleted, it should be deleted. Or alternatively, send it back to the Planning Commission as your recommendations. Even though you don't have the right to rewrite the comprehensive plan, you certainly can make recommendations. Send it back to the Planning Commission where it belongs. Let them engage with people like people here tonight. Have some more open sessions. Let people formulate and express their views in more than just a 2-hour compressed 3 minutes at a pop session. And let's have some real discussion of the very important issues you've heard about tonight, which I certainly don't have time to go into, but you've heard bits and pieces that should persuade you. There's a lot of discontent about the way this has come down, and it should be a responsibility at this point to make amends for what's happened over the last 9 months and let the people in this room and this community rewrite this comprehensive plan and not the county council. Thanks for that.
My name's Matt Pluta. I live on 7166 Lauren Lane here in Easton. And I want to start off by applauding the council for all their hard work on this comp plan, specifically as it relates to the sewer extensions out to our western villages. Eliminating the effects of failing septic through this sewer extension will help reduce the impacts of high nitrogen, high bacteria that enters our waterways. It'll be a win for our streams, our rivers, and the Chesapeake Bay. As the riverkeeper, I've experienced this peninsula both from the land and from the water, and I've gained a greater understanding for how delicate it actually is. I caution you that even though the sewer extensions will help manage sewage more efficiently, it should not promote the development in these villages. Increased development will lead to a bunch of problems, including all those that you've heard tonight, specifically greater vehicle traffic on roads that already has traffic issues, greater amounts of hard surfaces and therefore faster pathways for pollutants to enter into our waterway, and the need for quicker response time from emergency services to navigate around the extra traffic that will be produced. Even though these problems will be true for normal conditions, they will also become even more of a problem in the times of hurricanes, floodings, and other natural emergencies. So again, I want to thank you for your efforts on the sewer extension, but let's not turn these western villages from a solution into a problem. Thank you.
Frank Cavadall, 25736 St. Michael's Road. Every 10 years, the Talbot County Council has an opportunity to enhance and guide the future direction of the county. With the revisions in this new plan, we can move in a positive direction toward protecting our natural resources and quality of life, or we can permit unrestrained growth to take place in areas that are least able to handle it. One of the main factors is the extension of sewers to many of the western villages. This would be positive in allowing failing and inadequate septic systems to be hooked to a county system. No one can deny this is a positive. On the other hand, if these extensions are used to create new developments and increase density, we lose the benefit of reducing nitrogen and other pollutants going into the bay. Other issues that would be impacted are already overloaded roads that are prone to flood in major storms. Resident safety and quality of life must be assured before new density and growth areas are designated. Existing lots of record and infill should be the first source for new workforce housing before new developments are started. The comp plan needs to assure residents that issues such as the carrying capacity of existing roads, along with flooding and evacuation concerns, are studied and problems resolved before higher density or bonus density are granted. Thank you.
My name is Rainey Ann Caro, and my husband and I are owners of 2 properties on Shipyard Point Road off of Deep Neck Road in Royal Oak. One is about 3 3/4 acres, which we've had since 1987, And the second one is approximately 4 acres, which we just purchased in 2013. We love Royal Oak and have been very attentive at making sure we do not create unnecessary runoff on our own land. We've planted a great deal of new vegetation, including numerous trees, shrubs, grasses, perennials, to help preserve and reinforce the pastoral nature of this area. We only learned of the ongoing issues involving Royal Oak, and I now see it's a much broader issue, and possible increases in density at the beginning of November. Apparently, there is discussion that new density criteria BC for Royal Oak would be the same as only 2 other unincorporated areas, Tillman and Cordova. And yet Royal Oak is not actually aligned with those 2 larger and more urban sites, and instead is in fact the same as the other smaller, more pastoral villages, as we believe the council in fact must realize. A quick look at Wikipedia shows only Tillman and Cordova as separate from the others, with the extra definition of CDPs, Census Design Places, which are delineated for a decennial census as the statistical counterparts of their incorporated places. CPs are described as populated areas that lack separate municipal government, but which otherwise physically resemble incorporated places. By contrast, Royal Oak in the Wikipedia, and in fact, is more like the other local villages that do not physically resemble incorporated places: Bosman, Claiborne, Copperville, Doncaster, etc. It is simply irrational, apples and oranges, and possibly injurious to the region to pull Royal Oak out and attach it to the VC status of Tillman and Cordova from the start. The increase in development of hundreds, possibly hundreds of buildings being suggested will have an impact on everyone in the area, and not those, in fact maybe even not primarily those, who are just technically within the village border. In addition, the massive increases in construction in Royal Oak region can have other critical impacts, including large amounts of runoff, both during and after construction, into a relatively small body of water, Edge Creek, and indirectly into Broad Creek, the Chop Tank, and the Bay. Permanent increases in transportation with its concomitant release of additional emissions would become a permanent traffic change on 329 and Bellevue Road, vastly greater than it may be able to handle, especially since Royal Oak is also a major national recreational bicycle route and also has extensive pedestrian traffic and connects only there to the ferry. To exacerbate the problem, these bottleneck access roads are in many sections accompanied by extremely limited or non-existing road shoulders, a fact that already is creating danger during traffic congestion. Moreover, there could ultimately be a domino effect, where other large parcel owners, especially with regard to Royal Oak, in the area would assert that they're entitled to the same options, to be included in the Royal Oak Village and or employ a 4-to-1 density. We have a lot of other large parcels. Many of us are only having our first chance to address this and even really know that much about it, and should not be dismissed or given just one chance to speak because their parcels are, quote, outside of the village border. In conclusion, we ask for further opportunity to review these matters and urge that no final steps can fairly and consistent with full, sufficient public input be taken yet. Thank you very much.
My name's Kirk Harper. I live at 10426 Claiborne Road in the village of Claiborne. I'm speaking, even though I'm chairman of the Village Center Board tonight, I'm speaking to you as a resident of Claiborne. I want to acknowledge all the work that you put into getting the plan this far. I know your staff are probably sick of it, and you may be as well. You spent endless hours at this, I guess maybe more than you needed to have. When you set yourselves the task of editing the document, I think you stepped out of your executive roles as the council members and made yourself into staff members. If you had focused on the policy level issues without editing the document, but instructed your staff and the planning commission to make edits to reflect your policies, you wouldn't have had to spend 10 working sessions, I think, in endless hours, and you could have devoted more time to public hearings and hearing back from us about our reactions to the policy changes that you wanted to make in this. I think the red line draft is a step better than the comments that you made and the comments that were recorded in the matrix the staff produced. We didn't expect the red line draft to be this much better. I congratulate you on backing off some of the more radical positions that were expressed in the early hearings. I think for those of you who are new to the council, my impression is you're learning. This is a complicated process, and I recognize and appreciate all the hours that you're putting into this. Except for the incentive zoning portion of the red line and the TDR mention, I think the red line is an improvement in many ways over what the matrix would have expected us to do. I want to say something about, oh dear, the yellow flag is up. I would urge you to slow down and cool off about these changes that you want to make. I would remind you that your job is to represent the entire county, not the background you have or the people that you talk to or the people who supported you for election. But now that you're elected, you represent everybody. None of you lives on the Route 33 corridor except Dirk. I don't know how often you spend time. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Callahan. I guess you do too. I don't know how much time you spend trying to get through St. Michael's. It's a real problem. And if you added more housing to it, it would be worse. Let me end by saying, if I can, I think in addition to the issues mentioned by folks tonight, I think you need to consider the impact on your own budget. For every school child that attends the schools that comes from outside of the municipalities, there's about a $10,000 impact on the school budget. If you allowed 200 houses to be built, and a quarter of those houses had children living in them, and the average was 2 children, that would be $1 million impact on your $39 million school budget. If those same houses were built in the incorporated towns, there would be much less of an impact on your school budget. I think those are the kinds of things, in addition to transportation and emergency services, that you need to be focusing on before you finish this plan. Slow down, hear from the public, have more hearings, let the staff write into their draft, send it back to the planning commission, but let's not rush into decisions that would ruin your reputations as council members.
My name is Fred Israel. Live at 6431 Cedar Cove Road. Post office box is in Royal Oak, and we have that as our address. I want to thank all of our neighbors who have spoken so far, talking about the details of the plan and talking about impacts. I'm 88 years old. I'm an old lawyer. I'm an old engineer. And so I live with the facts that are here today. And what I haven't heard is how you're going to solve going from here to wherever it is you want to go. Fact, Route 329, which is the only route that goes into Royal Oak, comes off 33 in 3 places. In one of those places you could not let cars go through on a regular basis. Route 329 is windy, bowered with trees, narrow, and unsafe if you clog it and try to make any real time on that road. So first, before you do anything about Royal Oak, tell us how they're going to get in and get out. Secondly, I was at the meeting a week ago Monday where your staff briefed us on what you were looking at. And what they focused us on was the fact that you were looking for affordable housing and the fact that you were looking at the density for that housing. Affordable housing is something we should do, but Royal Oak is the wrong place to do it. We're far from the schools, we don't have the infrastructure, and I don't think you can get it started within a reasonable time for an 88-year-old guy. There is a place for you, and I suggest now that you take a look at it. there's one area in Talbot County which is excess to the needs of the present owners. And that's the hospital area off of Route 50. And it's about the same size as the Royal Oak area that you're looking at for the village. I suggest you look at the alternative. 322 and 50 can take the additional traffic. The schools are closer. Before you do anything about the number of houses and the kids who are going to come in, please take a look at the alternative, talk to the hospital, and decide whether or not it wouldn't be feasible and better to build the affordable housing you want and think we need off of Route 50 rather than trying to shoelace it in on Route 329. Thank you.
We fly in the Eagley Farm area off the much maligned and discussed Route 33, St. Michael's Road. I've gone to a variety of meetings and read the comprehensive statement, and when I get through each time, there seem to be conflicting clauses in one section or another, and I think that's been addressed somewhat this evening. So I would like to propose that the following priorities provision be added to the first chapter of the comprehensive plan. Quote, in recognition of the reality that this comprehensive plan is a complex document, that many issues arise in different manners in different chapters, and that policies and goals are always interwoven, the provisions of this plan should be interpreted as follows. Quote, whenever in this comprehensive plan, two or more policies or goals are or could be interpreted to be in conflict in whole or in part, then that policy or goal, which is most consistent with the vision statement of the applicable chapter or chapters, and the vision statement of the comprehensive plan as a whole, shall take precedence. Because I think resolution of some of these issues need to address the inconsistencies as well as the overall statement. Thank you.